All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the last Free Friday coaching call of 2024. I was thinking about the call this morning and reflecting back on how it got started. Really grateful for my late husband, Rick Geha, who many of you had the privilege of knowing, some for many years. And when I think about him, he was such a great combination of mindset and skill set. And it had me thinking back to my early career in real estate in 2005 when I started, and I had no skill set and very poor mindset. You can imagine how that went in the early days. And I very quickly learned, because of the environment that I was in, that it was really important for me to work on both. And so this call is a result of years of Rick being of service to his colleagues in the real estate community as he traveled the world and spoke and taught and coached. In addition to being a top producing agent in Northern California for his 43-year career, he really focused on the combination of those two things, the skill set and the mindset. And so we have kept this conversation going. The first and third Fridays of the month, we have different topics every time. We have different people every time. And we thought that it would be great to finish the year and the final call of the year on this topic, because of the importance of it. And so for those of you that may be jumping on for the first time, my name is Casey Council-Geha. I've been a licensed realtor since the end of 2004, which is, oh my goodness, 20 years. And I say the best thing about real estate and the greatest gift that it gave me was my husband, because without me becoming a real estate agent, we would have never met and ultimately created the life that we did. And so we are here, and my role today, and really as part of the organization that puts these calls on, is co-led between me and the person that you're going to be able to hear on the call today. And the vision is to continue to be in a state of growth and expanding reach and impact. And that is what we are committed to for agents in the real estate industry and in life. And so I'm super grateful to be joined this morning through someone that came into my life. Oh, it'll be 3 years ago now in May. And Rick and I had been in this conversation because we knew that we were growing and that we were expanding, and every next version of growth and expansion requires something different to level up. And so what I had been asking him, the question I've been asking him is, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? You know, so many people. Who do you know? Not do you know someone? This is important. We're starting already on the mindset piece of how you ask questions. Not do you know someone? Who do you know that would be the person that would be a match and a fit for us to grow with into this next chapter based on our vision? And one day, like out of nowhere, he's like, oh my gosh, she's been in front of me the whole time. She's a master coach with me at Workman Success Systems, which, for those of you who don't know Workman Success Systems, it's a premier coaching company in North California, North America, for teams and independent brokerages and people that are individual agents wanting to grow and expand their business. And master coach is the highest level of coach there. And they had been colleagues and friends there. And so our conversation opened up, it'll be 3 years ago, May, to explore and see if it was a match and a fit. Thank God it was. And here she is today with us. So before she comes on, I'm going to have her tell her brief story, just a little bit about her history, which is going on 29 years now in the industry. So you get a little feel and a flavor for who's going to be in the conversation with us today. But before I do that, what I want to say about Selina is that I love her dearly. She has been way more than a business partner. She is a friend. She's somebody that's loyal. She's somebody that I know that I can count on, that has my back all the time. She serves out of a heart full of love and a commitment to really make a difference and an impact. And I'm so grateful to be doing life and business together with her. So Selina, welcome to the call this morning. And for those that may just be meeting you or may not even know your story because we don't talk about it often, tell us a little bit about you and how we got here today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that, Casey. Back at you. Probably the most exciting and crazy 3 years of my life in so many ways. So welcome to the call, everybody. My name is Selina Galanis, and as Casey mentioned, I'm just entering my 29th year in real estate. You know, I love it when people ask me what I did before real estate, and I'm like, high school. So this is all I've ever done. And I started out in property management all those years ago, back in 1996, and moved from there into corporate property management, and then eventually corporate real estate, working for big Fortune 20 companies like AT&T and Verizon, and traveling the whole country. It wasn't until many, many years later that I started in residential real estate, which was a big shift for me, quite a bit different. I was like, why do people cry? I don't understand. People cry in residential real estate. There's no crying in corporate real estate. Big shift. But during that time, I worked for a large team, the number one team in Westchester County, New York, helping them grow the team and the business, and drastically increasing their production. They're still the number one team there. And as Casey mentioned, I am a master coach with Workman Success. And what I found through all of that is that what drives me is helping people realize their full potential in real estate and in life. I really have learned, and for those of you that do know me, you know how much I love operations and systems and processes. And over the years, I've just seen how the right tools and the guidance and the belief in yourself can transform not just your business, but whatever you thought was possible. I'm also the mother of 5 and the grandmother of 1, but we don't use the G word. We call me Yaya. She's 1 year old and just started working. Yeah, I start them early. Just, just started walking, and she is just the joy and the light of my life these days. So that's about me.
I love that. Yeah, yeah, sounds way more fun than the G word. Anyway, so all right. So, I just want to start this topic. We're talking about, if those of you that watched the video or saw the video, and I said, that the person watching the video is not going to be the person that achieves the goals that you've set for 2025, or that you will be setting for 2025. That's a little bit of a disruptive comment, because someone might hear that and think, oh, well, you're telling me that I'm not going to be able to achieve my goals and dreams. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is, when we look at, and I think about this often because I've heard it and I've seen it, like you get into like a personal development and mindset stuff, and you'll hear Tony Robbins say that enthusiasm will overcome, and cover up the fact that you don't have skills. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, enthusiasm is great, but we live in a culture of toxic positivity where people have learned to just be positive, 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 even though it's a cesspool underneath. And what ends up happening is that it's inauthentic and it's actually toxic. And so those two things are not aligned. And so, is mindset important? Yes. Is it about being positive, positive, positive all the time? No. Does attitude matter? Yes. And there's skills that for sure matter. And why I want to, highlight this idea of skills is because skills are something that you learn, not something that you're born with. And so what that means is, right out of the gate, being willing to do the work to develop the skill. I was thinking about it this morning because I was really getting like my mind and heart prepared for this conversation, because I know it's really important and it's a big conversation going into the new year, and really just one that I come back to in presence for myself, because I'm always asking myself, what is the future version of Casey that does not yet exist? And I want you to start asking yourself that question as well. Laura, what is the future version of you that does not yet exist? Cozy, what is the future version of you that does not yet exist? And why this is such an important question is because the you that exists today has created what you've created up until now. And if you want to create something more, something better, or something different, it's going to require a different version of you. And when I was thinking this morning, I was I was at the end of my workout in the last literally 10 minutes. I trained this morning at 5:30, and I have worked up to now at the end. My trainer gives me, I'm at 1 minute and 40 seconds holding in a plank and doing 4 sets of those. And I was on my third one, and I mean, my body was like shaking, and I have the clock right in front of me when I open my eyes, and I'm breathing, like gasping for air, like I'm gonna die. And I did it, and I go back and I'm stretching, and I feel this tapping of feet on the mat, and my trainer's standing there, and he goes, what is all this huffing and puffing? He's like, you're blowing that little sheet of paper around, which is a sticky pad. That is what he had written down what there was for me to do on. And he's like, did you not get your time? And I said, I got my time. I went from 8 minutes and 20 seconds to 10 minutes. I'm on my 3-minute rest break before I hit my fourth one. And when I went into my fourth one, it was the strongest one over the first three. Why? Because I brought to mind something that I had seen 2 days before, which was the woman that holds the world record for planking of holding it for over 4 hours. And I was looking at my minute and 40 seconds, and I was thinking to myself about this call today, how does she think differently than how I think right now? Because our thoughts are going to dictate how our body performs and what our body does. Same thing in business and real estate and the skills with that. How does someone who has already created what you want to create in their business and their life think differently than how you think right now? And really, this is the purpose of setting goals, because the purpose of setting goals is that as you go out to take the action to build the skills, to develop the mindset and the skill set, you change who you are and thus create a totally different outcome than was possible for you to ever create before. And so this idea about the future version of yourself and starting off the conversation and really asking yourself, who is that future version of me that doesn't exist yet today? And what does that look like? Today's conversation is dedicated to jumping in and getting you to understand the ideas behind it and actionable items that you'll be able to take away from today's call so that you can accelerate that process and really start it now today and have a great foundation set up going into 2025. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, and the first really point around it, before I do that, Selena, anything you want to add or jump in on?
I think it's very, I'm
This is
thinking
Claire.
about, oh, hang on, let me see who I need to mute. There we go. What's crazy is when you are exactly what you said with the plank, right? And you see someone who's done something like that. And then the first thing are all of us, like I said, watch everybody's faces and we all went like, what? Like that's not possible. And in reality, we now know it is, right? And so that mindset that we went into initially, like notice that we all did it immediately. Like every single one of us was like, what? And yet we know now it's possible. And I think that's the beginning of it, right? That's the beginning of recognizing the possibility, and why when you hear people talk about put yourself in the room with people who are doing more than you, because you are training your brain now to understand and believe that it's possible. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So we're going to jump into the first point, and we've kind of already danced around it a little bit, and it's defining your future self. When I was when I was in that plank position and went into the fourth one, I didn't think about myself as someone that was going to hold a plank for 4 hours. I thought about myself as the version of Casey that could hold one for 4 minutes, when what my target was today was 1 minute and 40. And immediately it had me thinking out further, out past where I was at, so that I wasn't focused on second by second, moment by moment. Some of you in your real estate lives are so hyper focused on, oh my gosh, the phone call I have to make to pick up the phone. And you're so focused on the minutia of what's in front of you versus the vision of what's before you, that you get stuck in the not picking up the phone because you're so focused on what's going to happen if somebody actually answers. And we're not even talking about vision or future self of you. We're like hyper focused on right now. And so this first step, or this first idea around creating the future version of you, is to get a totally different reference point and envision who you want to be 3 to 5 years from now. And 3 to 5 years from now, think about that version of you, and what are your skills that you've improved or developed that you don't yet have? What are the habits that have created that? Like, I know I'm developing habits and disciplines that I have never had before and doing it in a totally different way. And I'm doing it in my physical aspect of my life, right? With my trainer, I talked about that, but that extends into every other area, because how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? What are the attributes for me? I know that it's going to really serve me to be a lot more fun. And in the past, fun has felt like work, which is why I resist it, because work is fun. Fun is not fun, right? So now this is a different conversation. I'm like, oh what would a fun Casey look like 3 to 5 years from now? Like outrageously fun, where when people said Casey counselor, they weren't like, oh, she can beat you over the brow with a velvet hammer that sometimes has the velvet on it. And she does that for herself. But what if they started saying, oh my gosh, she's the most fun person I know? I mean, this would be crazy, right?
You have been
Well,
very fun for the past week, I have to say. You've been working really hard at this because she has been saucy and fun.
I'm
So,
working on my future self. All right. So the biggest thing though is in this, like defining your future self, why? Why? Why is the future version of you different? For me, and I'll just share quite vulnerably, Rick and I worked our asses off for the 16 years that we were together, and we enjoyed every single minute of it because we got to be together. And him leaving early and unexpectedly was a wake up call of like, wow, is this really how I want to live the rest of my life? And the answer is no. So when you think about defining the future version of you, there has got to be a really powerful why behind it. And sometimes, I mean, he would always say that our greatest wounds become our greatest gifts. So, Selina, actionable item on defining the future version of yourself. Give us something that we can do.
so this is one of my new favorite things to do right now, and I've been doing it quite a bit lately. And there's a couple of reasons because there's power in not just thinking about it, there's power in writing it and then saying it out loud. Is I want you to write a one-page letter describing that ideal self, who you are, who you will be in that 3 to 5 years, as though you're already there, as though you're already that person. So you have to use present tense. You have to focus on what are your qualities, what are the achievements, what does your life look like in that moment. But the key is to write it in present tense, as though it's already happening and you're experiencing it daily. And for me, I'm doing that. I'm writing it and then I'm saying it out loud, right? And it's becoming, because we're using all of our senses at that point, right? I want you to think about it from that perspective. What happens inside of our brains when we do that? Because we're now physically writing it. Typing can count, but I'll be honest with you, it's much more impactful if you sit there with a pen or a pencil and write it out. And then after you're done, read it and say it so that now you're speaking and you're hearing it. Right now, you start to feel it. Claire, the steps again is to write a one-page letter describing your ideal self, who you are in that 3 to 5 years, and writing it as though it's present tense. You've already achieved everything, the achievements, the values, everything that you want to be and experience in that moment, writing totally in the present tense. Don't write, I will be at this production level. I am. I am this person already. Go ahead. Sorry, Casey.
All good. All
Got
good.
serious there.
Yeah, no, love that. So this idea of how many of you have read the book Psycho-Cybernetics? It's an older book. It's a really, it's an incredible book if you really want to understand your psychology of what makes you tick and the importance of identity. And in there, it talks about this concept that people will never consistently behave with ways that people will never consistently act in ways inconsistent with how they view themselves. So people will never consistently act in ways that are inconsistent with how they view themselves. And I give an example of a smoker, two people that are smokers that are no longer smoking, that get offered a cigarette. And one, hey man, you want a cigarette? And one, the thought process is, oh my gosh, nothing more than I would love to have than a cigarette right now. But it's been, 2.5 years since I had my last cigarette. And that thought process runs through the mind of person number one, and they say, no, thank you. Person number two says, I'm not a smoker. Why would you offer somebody that's not a smoker a cigarette? A total identity shift. So what Selina's talking about is writing it as though you are that today. That is what it takes to consistently start to behave. It takes owning that identity of the future self of you that does not yet exist today. The name of the book, yes, there is a book that that you can go back and read after today's call. It's Dr. Benjamin Hardy. It's called Be Your Future Self Now. And I definitely invite you to go back to that to do a deep dive. Okay, item number 2 in the concepts is to set purposeful goals and then work backwards, reverse engineering your goals. And this question becomes really important of what needs to be true for me to become my future self. So in last May, when I started working out with my trainer, I was very clear that, it's important for me to have my health first, mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. and that I'd always prioritized business and career. And I really wanted to like start to do this in this aspect. And so when I started with my trainer in May of last year, it was like my commitments to being healthier and being the best version of myself that I could be. And he's like, okay, well, how are we gonna like know this? I'm like, because a year from now, when I turn 50, we're gonna be able to bounce a quarter off my. And he was like, what? And I said, yeah, you've got a year so that by the time I turn 50, we can bounce quarters off my ass. And he was like, he's just meeting me, having like no idea what just walked into his facility, right? And I set that goal and I'm like, listen, I'm coming to you and I'm paying you to tell me what to do. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to reverse engineer it. You reverse engineer that. Tell me what I need to do to train. I'll do it. Tell me what I need to do to eat. I'll do it. And so that's the program that we've been on, right? So when you think about this idea for you of setting purposeful goals and working backwards, Selina, I know that there's a much better actionable item that you can wrap into this than what I just described. However, I wanted everybody to get the concept.
Yeah, no worries. So when I think about it, and by the way, reverse engineering is one of my favorite things to do. So you're setting whatever that goal is. Let's say it is a production number, or you're building an organization and it's how many people you need to bring into that organization to achieve your goals. Or in like Casey's case, it's working out and becoming a different version of herself physically, right? You have to take that item and then break it down into, and I would recommend 3 to 4 smaller milestones. And there's a couple of reasons for this. For anybody who hasn't read the 12-week year, this concept comes from that as well. When we give ourselves a goal and we say by the end of 2025, we're giving ourselves permission. We're giving ourselves permission every month to not necessarily reach that goal because you think you have another month and you think you have another month. And you're like, oh, I didn't do it this month. It's okay. I'll do it next month. Right. So when we break it into smaller milestones, those being attained are still massive. Right. But a lot of folks will just say, I'm going to do this by 2026. And without the milestones to reach, you're giving yourself permission to wait until November. Because let's be real, lots of people do it, whether it's losing weight or whatever. They're like, next year's gonna be my year. I'm gonna lose the weight. And then like every month we're like, oh, you know what? It was December. We eat a lot, right? Like a lot happens. I'll start in January. And then January comes and we all go to parties or, then what is it? Super Bowls. And is it January, February? I forget. And then that happens. And then you're like, I'm going to give myself permission for next month. So when we break them into smaller milestones, we've given ourselves the ability to, one, be very excited when we meet it, and two, hold ourselves more accountable to what it is. And then we feel so good about it when we get to that milestone. So take whatever that big goal is and break it down into 3 or 4 milestones that you can reach like along the way. And that way you're feeling that success because when we give ourselves to October, November, your mindset shifts because you're starting to feel bad. You're starting to feel like you didn't win and you want the wins. You want the wins along the way. So that's that goal is take whatever that big thing is that you want to, who you want to be, what it's going to take to get there, and then break it up into 3 or 4, right? Along the way. And set goals for when those dates are. I'm not saying just set 3 to 4. Set goals on when those milestones will take place.
I love that. We had a great Free Friday coaching call. The last one that we had, Zach Bach was on it, and he was talking about the 3 breakdowns of a deal. But it was really this idea about a mindset of a person who's a real estate professional that when they go to do an open house, they know that that's a commitment from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. because of what happens before, during, and the fact that he's picked up someone that's going to be in his car looking at properties after that open house is done for the day. And it was incredible how he had that broken down. Great example of a practical application. So let's say that that's something as a pillar of income that you want to have for your real estate career in 2025, and you want to create incredible and outstanding results from it. Go catch the Free Friday coaching call. That was the last one we had. And we'll make sure that Laura pops it in the chat below where you can find all of these recorded calls. But whatever that's going to be, this format and that structure really, really works. So the third thing is to adopt a growth mindset and design your environment. And how many of you have read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, Dr. Carol Dweck? Oh my goodness. This is a must read. So she is a genius woman who's a Stanford professor, and she wrote the book called Mindset. And she talks about this just beautifully illustrated in so many different ways that there's two mindsets that exist. One is a fixed mindset that says, these are my skills, these are my talents, these are my gifts. I don't have that. I'm different from, I never could. This is who I am. Fixed mindset. And a growth mindset that is, I can become anything, anyone I choose to put my mind to, and I'm willing to do the work and learn from every failure and get stronger and better over the course of time. And that growth mindset is imperative to really this idea of a future version of yourself, because number one, you're never going to arrive. Number two, how many of you think that when you have a challenge or an obstacle or a setback, you're like, oh, it must not be meant to be? That would be what I call woo-woo. It's full of crap. Your challenges, your obstacles, your setbacks are the feedback mechanism that say, I'm on the right freaking path. And because I didn't get it and because I didn't hit it, there's something for me to grow, develop, or change in myself that I've not yet grown, developed, or changed. That book is Mindset by Carol Dweck. And so this growth mindset is so important. And then the environment piece, if you've read the book by how many of you have read the book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, Willpower Does Not Work? Just by a show of hands, willpower does not work. Okay, one person, two people. So this idea of willpower does not work is that what people are programmed to do somehow is to, and we get this from society, culturally, family of origin, whatever, is we'll like be like, oh, we'll have this goal and whatever that is, and then we just need to be a stronger person. We just need to have more willpower. We just need to be more resilient. And by like 7 o'clock in the morning, willpower reserves are depleted. So now you go out into your day and beat yourself up about the willpower you don't have because you're relying on something that is not going to get you there anyway. And his entire book is around environment and how environment dictates everything. So, for example, I've been using this conversation around health and wellness, right? And in the environment, when I went and started this journey, I have no sugar in my house. I have nothing in my house that if I was craving something or having a moment that I could reach for. There is nothing to reach for in my house. It is literally the most boring food house ever. And it's the most healthy food house ever. Why? Because if one of those times comes up, I have to freaking get in my car and go drive somewhere to do that. And by the time I get there, that moment has passed. But if it was sitting on the shelf or in the freezer in the form of ice cream already, and I'm like, I just won't touch it. I will just use my willpower and not touch it. It is sitting right there. And how many times have I already touched it? My whole life, right? And now I just got to open up the freezer and go get it. So this idea and concept of your environment being key and how to, intentionally design your environment and having a growth mindset are really two other points that kind of sit under this third point that we're talking about. So, Selina, how can we put this into actionable items related to real estate?
Yep. I want you to conduct what we call an environment audit, like literally looking at your environment and think of 3 things or people in your life that you feel like do propel your growth, and maybe 3 things or people in your life that don't. And you have to make decisions, right? We talked about it a little bit earlier about surrounding yourself with people that you can grow with, right? As a result of that. And I'll have a raw moment as well for a second. I'm going through a divorce, right? 20 years in the same marriage with the same person. And as I'm making these changes, it meant moving into my own place with my son and then creating an environment that feels comfortable for me now, Like, it's not about who I was, it's about who I want to be. And in reality, he'd been living here with me for the last couple of months, and then he just left last Friday, and I immediately audited my environment. Because while he was here, it was very much like what we had, and he's kind of a messy person, and he likes stuff everywhere. And I called Casey, and I was like, "He's gone. I have cleaned the entire downstairs. There's nothing on surfaces. It feels like it's my space." And what it gave me was peace, right? I audited that environment, and it's very reflective of me now. There's no longer an us, so it's reflective of me, but it gave me peace. And so when I get up in the morning, I'm in a different kind of mood. And throughout the day, when the house is like it is, I'm in a different kind of mood. And as a result of that, I feel empowered. I feel empowered in the midst of something that's been really, really hard for me. So the actionable item is for you to audit what is happening in your life, even if it's just your space, guys. Like, 2 days ago, I did the same thing in my office. It had gotten to be a mess. I'm just always kind of going and going. And for me, it's very important for this space to feel like I have clarity, and I can be clear and operate from a clear space. So I want you to think about people who might be in your life that you need to audit, okay? And things in your house, things in your workspace, anything like that that you feel like you could take a look at and say, if I was the future version of me, what would my space look like? What does my mind look like? What do the people I'm hanging out with look like? And it's a really hard conversation sometimes. And then, are there people that you could bring into your environment? Are there things that you could bring into your environment that make you feel as though you're already that future version of yourself? Who you hang out with matters. What you listen to on social media, TV, everything. People joke, but I watch Excel spreadsheets on TikTok. Occasionally I find funny stuff, but that is something that brings me joy. So I audit that. And when stupid stuff comes up, I'm immediately getting rid of it and say, this is not for me. But I love the people who show me spreadsheets on TikTok. So audit what you're doing, audit what you're putting into your brain. Okay. And if you are looking for someone to follow, follow them on social media. So you're getting that same experience and you're bringing in that new version of yourself as a result of that.
I love that. And for those of you that are thinking about this in the context of your real estate business, um, I think about my nutrition plan and what would I eat if my trainer is sitting right next to me. I wouldn't even be thinking about that coffee crunch ice cream that I love. I'd be like, where's my broccoli? And I need some lean protein, right? So in the context of real estate, like Selina and I were just in communication this week. We're going to be in an event in March in Cabo San Lucas that's a little bit, it's an investment to be there of time and money. Ed Milet's going to be there. Uh, who else is going to be there?
Tom Ferry.
Tom Ferry's going to be there.
There's like a whole list. I know,
There's
and I'm totally
there's
blanking on everybody.
multiple people that are going to be at this event, and big name people. Gary Brecka, for those of you that follow him on Instagram, and let me tell you that there will be more people that do not attend that event than people that do attend that event. It's a real estate event that will be for people that have a really big vision in real estate and a really big impact that they want to make, and yet there'll be people that say, I want to grow my business. I want to grow my career. I'm committed to growing my business, my career, a better life. Ed Milet's going to be there. And yet event, it's so much, the hotel's so much. And so these are the kind of conversations that happen when you're in a future version conversation of yourself. Those are going to be like the natural things that come up in the current version is most immediate present obstacle. And this redirect to, wait a minute, what's going to happen to my mind, my heart, my skills, who I'm going to meet when I put myself in an environment and I'm shoulder to shoulder with those people, with people that are crushing it in real estate, other people in the industry that are leaders in the space of growth, mindset, health, all of the things that make a human being successful. What does it mean to be in that room or be in those rooms over the course of 5 days in March versus the masses of people that will not and have their goals set for 25, but are not changing who the environment that they're in, their home in that same old environment around the same old people, doing the same old things, talking about grit and perseverance and grinding it out. changing your environment and who you're around is important. So in that future version of you, fast forward 3 to 5 years down the road, action item on your environment is what events are you committed to attending? And committed means you've got a flight and you've got a hotel and you've got a ticket. Not, oh, I've got it in my calendar. Yeah, I'm going to go. No, you've got a flight, you've got a hotel, you've got a ticket. That means you're committed because your money follows your commitment. If it's in your calendar, that's not a commitment. You're booked. That's your commitment, right? So that is a way that your future version of yourself, not yet here, man, I got to put myself in that environment, an environment like that as a catalyst. All right, so that was the third item. The fourth one is now we're going to get down to a little bit more granular. And this is about committing to daily progress and reflecting regularly. So there is a definition of success that I love. I know everybody's got their own definition of success. The one that I love is forward progress towards worthy goals. Success is not a pass or fail from my perspective. Success, I define success by forward progress towards worthy goals. So we've talked about the idea of having those set. We've talked about reverse engineering them backwards. And now what happens is what happens every day. Did I move the needle forward or backwards? And it takes effort to move the needle forward. It takes nothing to move the needle backwards. And so really what we're talking about is we're talking about getting up and engaging, right? And being able to look back and go, you know what? I had a successful day. Like you can every day have a successful day if you're willing to do the actionable items that Selina's going to talk about. And when you do it and you anchor that fact that, you know what, every day can be a successful day. When this is your criteria, forward progress towards worthy goals, and these are the action items that you've got in place to do that, tell us what those action items would be.
Yep. So I want you to focus on small, consistent daily habits. Okay, so again, this is not about the lofty goal. It still is, but I want you to break it down into consistent daily habits. And you probably hear a lot of workmen, if anybody here has heard any of us workmen coaches that are on the call talk about it, we call it daily success habits. And there's a reason for it because we know that actions like that equal results. And it's only through the consistent doing of those actions that it gets you there. So I really want you to think about the small, consistent daily habits that you can create that compound over time, and then create a morning routine that includes one of those habits. So I'll give you an example. Like every single morning, I get Nico breakfast ready. I had to walk him to the bus stop. I come back and I immediately clean whatever was happening in the kitchen again, and that gives me peace. And then I immediately come upstairs. This is something I got into a bad habit of doing, and the future version of myself, this habit could not exist, is it's very easy for me because I work from home so much to not bother doing my hair, not bother getting up and putting on my makeup, not getting dressed as though I were going into an office. And when that habit is in place for me, I'm not operating at the same level. I'm just not. So I get up, get in the shower, do my hair, put my makeup on, get dressed as though I'm going into an office because who I am is different when I do that. I'm not in yoga pants. I am like up. You see what I'm wearing? I'm wearing very nice pants right now. I don't leave this house, people. I'm here all day staring at the 5 screens that are currently in front of me. But I make myself now create that habit daily because I feel different when I do it. So I want you to think about what you could be doing. And guys, this can include journaling. It can include reading. I'm doing something on Mind Valley right now. I'm doing a course on Mind Valley. Every single morning it comes up with a reminder and reminds me to do it. It's 15 minutes. Every single morning I'm doing it, and I'm feeling better as a result of that particular piece as well. So I want you to think about what that could be. And then at the end of every week, I want you to take 30 minutes and reflect on, did I do it? Was I consistent with it? Can I celebrate the win of doing it? Did I take any lessons away from it? Right? Maybe why am I not doing it? Like, is there something that's holding me back from doing those consistent habits? And then one of my favorite things is to habit stack. Anybody here know what that is? Habit stacking? Yep, Debbie does. I think we've talked about it before. So you create one until you're consistently doing it. And then, because sometimes we make a lot of goals, right, for our fall next year, and you're like overwhelmed. And so our brain just stops and we're like, it's too many things, I'm not doing it. So when we habit stack, just do one consistently for like a week to 2 weeks until you're feeling really good about it. then stack another one. Okay. And now you're doing two. Feeling good. Feeling good. 2 weeks, right? Maybe sometimes it's about how long it takes for us to feel consistent. And then stack another one and then stack another. And then eventually that just becomes your day. Okay. It just becomes your day. Those things start becoming part of who you are. They weren't a part of who you were before. They are a part of who you are now. And stack them up. Stack them up. So that's your takeaway is create a morning routine that includes one habit aligned with that future self, whatever that is. For me, it's getting up, getting dressed completely, makeup on, hair done, every single little bit, right? And then schedule that weekly 30-minute reflection to celebrate the wins or talk about with yourself, what are the lessons I learned maybe from not doing it? What's holding me back?
Love that. How many of you know you have a hard time celebrating or acknowledging yourself by show of hands? Like if we were to start the day off with wins, you'd be like, I don't have one. It cracks me up when we get on calls and it's like, great, yes, you do. Look for one. What you focus on expands. And it is for people who are, and I'm going to say this is probably many people. I know it's me. It doesn't matter how great I've done. I am sometimes inclined to focus on what I didn't do. Like, oh yes, all of that, but what about this? And this was really important. And all of a sudden the focus is on the what about this, and all of this gets lost and it becomes irrelevant. And what that does is it creates a habit or a pattern of a couple of things. Number one, when I don't check in and actually acknowledge all the ways that I moved things forward in that forward progress, it's impossible for me to feel success and fulfillment, period, at all, ever. And if the focus or habit becomes on what's not, what you focus on expands, and that is what expands, what's not. And so this idea of going back and looking at and like acknowledging, right? And staying neutral. One of my mentors always used to say, he said, the people that I know that are the most successful, if you were to follow them around, their energy line looks like this. He said, it looks like this straight curve, just like this. He's like, the people that have the most struggle are high as a kite because of how great things are going and down in the dumps when they get crappy. And they're high as a kite when they're going great and they're down in the dumps when they get crappy. And they spend so much wasted energy, like literally flowing out for them in the highs and lows versus the like always be in the middle line. Okay, I said I was going to do this, this, and this today. Of that, I did this, 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 this. Great. Success, forward progress to worthy goals. Gaps, perfect. Where am I going to add that in tomorrow? Where am I going to catch that up next time? And you go. And it's neutral, right? But it's the accounting and it's the acknowledgement. It's the accounting and the acknowledgement versus I don't want to look at all. I don't want to keep track at all because then I'm going to see for sure how bad I suck. And that is a narrative, a choice, a construct, a frame that you would have to choose to give it that meaning. And the truth is that is just the meaning that you're giving it. You could look at it as suck. Someone else could look at it as opportunity. It really depends that lens and that frame. But the taking of the inventory is the thing that's important. I'm like, it's Friday. And all I have to ask myself is, what did I do? I got my 3 workouts in, done. I didn't know what days they were going to happen because he doesn't let me know till the night before if he can get me in the next day. So I never know what day it's going to happen based on the schedule of availability I give him during the week. But it's the end of the week and I go, yeah, I got my 3 workouts done. Check the box, done. Right? That was my commitment this week. 3. Next week, my commitment is 3. The week after that, 2, because I'm traveling. And so it's a very simple, easy check-in. Great, did it, did what I said I was going to do, move on and acknowledge myself for the fact that I am building those habits consistently repeated over time, even the smallest ones. So in all of the conversations I've been in with real estate agents, I have never met one person that actually likes to and consistently, is just fallen in love with tracking their activities daily. Most of the times in conversations around doing it, even when we understand the value of it and the benefit of it, people resist it. They don't do it. It's been 3 days since I put my stuff in. I don't remember actually what was. I have to find my notebook. Did I write everything down? Oh, well, I would go check my texts and my calls, except for now it's been 3 days and the call log's too far. So I don't actually have the right numbers, but I could check my texts. And it's like this just mental chaos that people go through. That I watch agents go through in this conversation when they think about doing one little thing of just putting in the number in the box. There's no story, right? And that is the challenge with that, is that we always want to have a story. Well, I was going to do it and this happened. Well, I had it time blocked at this time, but then this came up. And that's the beauty of tracking. It's like there's room for a number, not a story. And then you can look at your numbers and you can go, okay, wow. Acknowledge whatever that is, and great. Now what am I going to move into next? And these are the people that will make progress, you will change who you are and become that future version by being willing to hold yourself in something that you've not held yourself into up until this point in time. So, those were the 4 key things. So when we talk about kind of putting a bow on all of this, and then we'll open it up for questions, takeaways, all that kind of fun stuff, is define what that future self looks like, right? I know that mine is like fun, fit, wildly prosperous, and making one heck of an impact. And notice I have fun at the top of that and fit second. I've got the fun one, my biggest room for opportunity to change who I am in my future self, right? So clearly define your future self, and the one that you've got the biggest gap to move into, make that one first. Like, be honest with yourself about what there is. What is there for you in that space? Number 2, setting purposeful goals and then working backwards. So if you don't have your goals for 2025 set, and I recommend you set them mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and in a space of contribution, get them set. Get them set before you go into the holidays. It's not rocket science. Get clear. Get them written down, pen to paper, so that you've got them in front of you. And then have your quarterly, chunk them down into what those benchmarks are going to look like quarterly, and then monthly, and then daily. And then fall in love with the habit stacking that will create the future version of you that Selina talked about. The next thing is mindset. If you know you've got some mindset work to do, and as you adjust your environment, go read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. Go get the book Willpower Doesn't Work by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Listen to him on audio while you're traveling to go see family for the holidays. Like, get the mind thinking, working differently. To set yourself up differently. Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, which is what this conversation is tailored around. Those would be 3 books. Like right now, you could knock them out before the end of the year. And yeah, I mean, maybe things are going sideways at the holiday party and you're in the bathroom for a long time and someone's knocking on the door and you're like, I'm working on my future version of myself, right? I'll be out in 2 hours. Like, are you guys done with the chaos out there, right? I mean, just have some fun with it. You can work it in, but you got plenty of time to get that done before the first of the year in those books. All right. And then the daily progress and reflecting regularly to make sure that for whatever success definition that you're choosing for yourself, I mean, at the end of the day, none of this matters if you don't feel fulfilled and you don't feel like you're a success, period. And no one is going to say anything to you that's going to make you feel successful. I know some people still think that they can make other people feel things. It's impossible to make someone feel something else. Like, you're feeling successful, you're feeling fulfilled is not going to come from someone else. It's not going to come from something in your environment. It doesn't matter the amount of accolades you get. People get accolades all day long and still don't feel fulfilled or successful. Like, for you to feel fulfilled and successful, that is the job that you get to do for you that no one else can do for you. And this is the formula for you to be able to do it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, future self version that, like, I'm happy, I'm successful, I'm fulfilled. It doesn't matter how much money I'm making, not making. It doesn't matter what the number on the scale says. It doesn't matter, none of that, because I've become a person where that future self is living inside of me today. And oh, guess what? Then we'll get to create the next future self. So we'll revisit this call at another time. However, we've got some great work to do. So with that, I want to open it up for questions, comments, ahas, takeaway, jihas, which is, you know, what Rick would call them, BFOs, which would be blinding flashes of the obvious, like, of course I knew that. How did I forget that I knew that? Whatever it is that you feel inspired to share in our last 10 minutes together, we'd love for you to come off mute and do it.
Hi, it's Lindsay Kate from Wisconsin.
In the house.
I'm so excited. And I'm going to admit this is the first one of these that I've actually gotten to make it on. So I'm admitting this, and I'm going to be on for all of them from here on out. But I just wanted to say that I really love this training. Thank you guys for doing this. I never have ever gotten this with another company in 14 years. So this is amazing that we have access to you and to everybody on the team, and that we're able to grow. So I'm really excited about this. But I did want to take away that with the purposeful goals and the doing it daily and actually taking like being okay with, like, I did a good job today and actually I did all the things I needed to, and actually being okay with being awarded things. I have a very hard person. I have a hard time doing that. So thank you for saying that, because that really did stick in, that's going to be something that I really work on. So
I
thank
love
you.
that. I love that. So happy that you're here and part of our community. All right, who else?
I wanted to ask you, I have a group on the East Coast. How can and I felt like I hit the wall in the summer, I would provide these trainings and people wouldn't show up. What can I do moving forward in 2025 to be consistent and not worry if 2 people show up or 10 people show up? What kind of value can I give along with, because I am going to make a Canva piece about this Friday call. This was awesome. This is one of my favorite ones. I haven't been on many, but I think this is the best one I've ever been on. How can I add, like, okay, the Friday coaching calls and whatever else, and just keep plowing through? Like, people might not join all the time, and that's okay. So that's what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So number one, the person who shows up and does it is the person that grows. Period. So if there's one person on the call, there's 500 people on the call, it doesn't matter. One of the things that Selina and I are doing differently going into 2025 is we created a list of possible topics, and we're dispersing that to the organization to see what people want to be in conversations about in 2025. And then based on that feedback, we're developing the 2025 calendar. And so, you know, we have multiple calls that we do. We do this call on the first and third Friday for people that want to learn the art of attraction and recruiting. We have a call the first and third Tuesdays of the month, and then Systems with Selina happens monthly, and the A to Z's of building a real estate sales team happens monthly. And so instead of guessing what value would be for our organization, of which there's, you know, thousands of people in our organization, people have an opportunity to put their hand up and say what's valuable for them, and then we'll deliver based on that. And I think that's one of the big things around value, is not having to guess what that is for people. And then making it easy. Same days, same times. We follow a cadence. It's always the same cadence. And so we talk about it every time we're on the call, and that gets hardwired into people's brains. It's like, it's the first or third Tuesday. It's the first or third, you know, Friday, whatever that is. And then, you know, keep growing. The right people will plug in and the right people will show up. And it's about having that in front of them so they know that it's available. Great question, Stacy. And you're doing a fantastic job, I know, and you're committed and you're dedicated. And so it can be challenging, you know, to be the pace setter in an organization where it's like, man, where are my running partners? They're back there crawling or walking or turning around looking at the birds up in the trees. And, you know, that's just the nature of people. People are ready for different things at different times. And so we just, you know, we provide and then plug in and make sure people know about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else?
I got something to share. So
Leo.
I'm going to borrow the fun, fit, and wildly prosperous. I love that. That you said that. I'm like, I'm quoting that. That's a gem. So what, you know, everything you guys are talking about is so spot on, because about a month ago, it's been about 30 days. I just did one habit, which was to not eat before 12 and not eat after 6, intermediate fasting. So 6 hours a day, and I'm giving my body 8 hours. But I hadn't weighed myself in 30 days since I started, and I'm down 15 pounds. just with that one habit. I didn't change what I ate. I didn't change anything else. The only thing I didn't do is eat after or before those 2 times. So just want to point to the fact that these things that you're talking about and Selina's talking about is absolutely the most important thing you could do. These small things that don't seem significant are the most significant. So that's what I'll have to contribute. Thank you for this call.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And here's what I want to say. Because you have such a defined thing that you're doing set up, I'm not eating before this time and I'm not eating after this time. In those times that are before and after, you don't think about them at all. There's just like off the table and you focus on other things. And then during the times when you can and you are, then you do that. It's the same exact thing in your real estate careers, people. If you focus on the things there are to focus on in the times where you've got them set to focus, and then when you're outside of those times, don't think about those things. Let them go. Be present with where you're at doing the other things. Like sometimes we're thinking about working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week versus actually working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We think about it more than we're actually doing it, and we get confused thinking that we're actually doing it when we're not doing it all. We're just thinking about it. And so I love that, Leo, because you gave a great example of freeing up mental space. And then like, look at how fast the body, and this is how our bodies work, our bodies and our minds, when we get them in sync, it rises to the occasion and just starts performing at an entirely different level when we make it easy for it to do that, because it has an expectation of what's going to be happening. If you do that same thing in your business and every other area of your life, when there is an expectation of what there is to be happening because it's on your calendar for that time, or that's what you're doing, or this is my time with my family, this is my time for my workout, this is my time for my reading, this is my time for lead generation, this is my time for my business calls that are, follow-up calls, then great, you got that time done. You don't need to be thinking about it or how much more you could be doing of it or whatever. It's done. It's complete. I love that, Leo. All right, who else? We got room for a couple more.
So for me, you said people will never consistently act in ways that are inconsistent with how they view themselves. And I have I've never set like personal goals. Like everything I've done for the last several years has been around work. And so this year I'm taking back control of my business. There's a new sheriff in town. And yeah, I'm about to make and implement some changes that my future self and my team's future self are going to be very thankful for. And it starts with the mind. It starts with me. That's where I have to grow as a person. And I appreciate the support because you're amazing. And so is everyone that's been helping me. So thank you.
I love that. And Cheryl, you are definitely not alone, because I can look at the majority of my life and like, where am I most driven to focus and create and have my goals? On my business. Because I like that. And I like what it creates. And I've got big dreams and I've got big goals, and that means big business, right? And so it's like, yes, focus. Oh yes, we'll do the other stuff too. I know it's important, right? And sometimes it's like not, because I'm focused on the business. And then it's amazing what happens when you start focusing on some of the other stuff, the personal stuff, and the business ticks up, because it's a future version of you that's a different version of you that starts showing up, that now energetically starts creating something entirely different. And so it's so fun to see, when we are the full expression of ourselves, like every aspect of who we are, and like literally every aspect of who we are. And that's what we bring into every area of our lives. And we've got attention and we've got intention on every area. It's magical, actually. And there's not a lot of people. You can see people that do that because they stand out. They stand out different in a crowd, whereas the masses you see are not, right? So intention and attention on those things. All right, fantastic. We are at the top of the hour. Selina, thank you for the wonderful value that you brought to today's call in the form of your perspective, your experience, and actionable items that were really clear for people to walk away with and integrate. This is recorded. I know the holidays are a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Whatever they are to you, I know that we are super grateful for you. We do not take your time, your attention, and the opportunity to be in life and partnership with you lightly. We appreciate each and every one of you. We're looking forward to an incredible 2025, and we are intentionally creating it to be that way. And we're committed, both Selina and I are committed to continuing to step into the future version of ourselves today, and look forward to doing that alongside each and every one of you as this community continues to grow and expand. So we love all of you. Be safe, enjoy some great time, reset. Let's finish this year beautifully and powerfully and go and create next year in amazing and wonderful ways. We love you all. To be continued.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.